going on, guys?
Barbarossa boys probably can't even hear us because, we don't even have a mic unless it's coming through there right now.
Is that even possible?
Dude, I don't even know. Let me turn this volume up. It would be nice to know where this the video is at, right?
Let me pull this shit up.
It would be nice. I wonder. I wonder what an URL. It would be nice to know where this.
It works.
How did you do that? How did you do that, dude? How did you do that?
Alright, here we go.
How did you do that?
Alright, here we go, boys.
How did you do that?
Rozenstruik versus Alistair Overeem. What happened tonight was, I may or may not be biased by having put possibly some money on the Reem. The Reem has not had a very good chin over the past 5 to 6 years, so it's been kind of disappointing. But I put money on him tonight knowing that he's a better fighter than Rozenstruik, and unfortunately I knew it would be exhilarating, that one punch would knock him out, so that's why I put money on him. And that just so happened to be the case. What did you think? Overeem was fighting a really good fight. He kept his hands way up higher than usual. He was covering the entire fight, and then at the end, of course, he dropped his hands against the fence, which seemed to be the one time Rozenstruik had a lot of the advantage, I would say, is when he had Overeem against the cage. Overeem finally wasn't covering up, and Rozenstruik dropped him. So I'm actually a guy that watches UFC and mixed martial arts all the time, pretty much every pay-per-view, I should say. This guy over here is a newbie. He's probably watched about 20 UFC pay-per-view events over the years. So, what did you think? What did you think, Rambo?
From what I saw, it seemed like I'm gonna go with the darker colored guy as charcoal.
Rozenstruik.
There you go. You might call him by that name. But from what I found out during the fight, is he seemed to be less capable, or with maybe not his hits, but he seemed like maybe to have less knowledge regarding the fight in general. The whiter guy had better coordination, just overall seemed to know what he was doing, what he wanted during the fight, and that's kind of from somebody that really doesn't watch UFC in general. Seemed like he knew where he wanted to land his punches, and if just watching it through the first 2 or 3 rounds, because it was a 5-round fight, right? After 2 rounds, I pretty much figured he was more.
The Reem was a better fighter?
Yeah. He seemed like he knew what he was doing. He knew what he wanted to go for. And I don't know, watching UFC, you can start to tell really quickly. You can maybe pick up on what's going on, what each player's trying to do, or what they're trying to go at after against their opponent. But it takes someone who knows the UFC a little bit more to understand why they're trying to do something, right?
For me, I thought Alistair Overeem is also a kickboxer. So Rozenstruik's a kickboxer who has an insane record with a lot of knockouts, whereas Overeem has been in the UFC a lot longer, although he is still young, which is surprising. I looked up the age and it said he was 33 tonight, which I would have assumed he was almost 30, 35 to 38. With that, I thought it was very interesting once it went into a 5-round fight. I thought Overeem was winning the first 3 rounds, at least 2 of the rounds. I thought maybe Rozenstruik got the first, I believe. Overeem was successful with the takedowns to where Rozenstruik wasn't going to get up. And it was interesting to me because Overeem, obviously being in the UFC and training mixed martial arts versus just kickboxing for the past couple of years, has had a significant step up in the ground game compared to Rozenstruik. And it just seemed like it was a real shame that he had so much hesitance with his hands up so high, which was I was happy for, but at the same time he seemed to be really hesitant about getting a takedown. And if he would have secured a takedown every round, I think he would have won because it didn't seem like Rozenstruik was getting up at any time. In my opinion, I didn't think he was ever going to get up.
If he got taken down from
Yeah, from the ream, from horse meat, as everyone calls him. What do you think of the lip split at the end?
oh, that last round, dude. Oh my god, that was nutty. That was nutty, to say the least.
A lot like the Robbie Lawler fight, where Robbie Lawler got his lip split by Rory McDonald. I think, so the finish, if we were going to talk about that, it seemed to me like Rozenstruik landed an extremely clean blow to where the point of, it seemed like if the Reem would have got up and not been kind of wobbly, he would have been able to strike. But he totally wobbled against the fence, so I guess honestly, it seemed like it was probably over. Even with the time left in the fight, he probably would have got knocked out regardless. It sucks to have had money on that because I won money in all my other fights tonight, but that fight pretty much evened me out completely over the whole night. So, you have anything else about that fight, or do you want to talk about the other fights, or anything to add?
I guess the only thing I wanted to add was maybe like watching. I don't know, like since I'm pretty new to UFC, watching heavyweight, it's definitely like a lot slower, I suppose, like than the earlier fights that I watched tonight, of course. But
the bantamweights were a lot more going on.
Like, even though it was slower, it seemed like those two were throwing quite a few, punches. Overseem wanted to like come down with a lot of, he kept trying to go after like the weight, or didn't really get at his waist, but like wanted to, if that makes any sense. It seemed like he wanted to get him to the ground to work on him instead of like this jab, or keep it up 2 feet, and just throwing shots. So I'm like something I learned from watching the fights or from him so far is just when it comes to like heavier set people, it takes a lot less punches to knock someone out. It's easier to knock someone out if you are like heavier, like when it gets into the higher weight classes. Whereas in like the lighter weight classes, you just see haymakers all over the goddamn place every single like in the 3 rounds or whatever, and like nobody's really getting knocked out. It's just like literally more like jiu-jitsu, like you see the full frontal of jiu-jitsu or mixed martial arts, or like you win by an arm bar or something like that, or not a knockout, right? It's usually something really technical, right? Is what ends up getting the win in the lighter weights.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of decisions in the lighter weights. There's a lot of, like, if we were to we'll skip over Ben Rothwell versus Stefan Struve, which were the other 2 heavyweights we watched earlier. We'll skip over them and we'll talk about Ricky Simón versus it's bad of me not remembering his name. Ricky Simón, who lost, versus is it Polk? I'm bad about this. Terrible.
This wasn't a fight that happened earlier tonight?
It did, yeah. I had money on the other guy.
Yeah, and you won that, didn't you?
Rob Font. Okay, so I've been drinking a lot of beers tonight, boys. All right, so when Ricky Simón fought Rob Font tonight, Rob Font, they fight in a lighter weight class. Rob Font is a striker, and Ricky Simón is an up-and-coming wrestler who's newer to the UFC, but very up-and-coming. He's very explosive. He's a good striker as well. When he fought Rob Font really leaned into it. He has a stance of a boxer, basically, so he leans very forward, but his awareness with striking is just so much better than Simone's. And every single fighter in that division is so close right now. I can't even imagine like trying to weed out and bet on each fighter every time because they're all so closely matched with each other. But basically, Rob Font had such a good jab, so he'd keep landing this left jab all night long, setting up the right, and with different combinations. And his left jab would lead to very significant striking combinations, whereas Ricky Simone would land a few punches, and then if he did get a takedown, which I believe he had 2 takedowns in the first, 2 takedowns in the second, and 1 takedown in the third, Font was just like a level above with the scrambling. So just so much different levels of entertainment watching a lighter weight class versus what we watched tonight. I don't know. You probably, as a guy, probably like watching the lighter weights, I'd imagine. The heavyweights,
So
they looked pretty slow. I mean, they were extremely flat-footed. Like, Rozenstruik was moving pretty good all night long, but like, man, this heavyweight division, the top 3 or 4, they're pretty good. Ryan Bader's pretty good in Bellator. Other than that, there's just really no entertainment aspect. Someone always gets knocked out, and I always feel bad in my stomach when I see people get knocked out like that. But it's always slow. I don't know.
I like watching the lighter weight people play against each other, and I guess most people that are new to the UFC probably would think the same. Heavyweight, like, there's the weight classes like really broad compared to all the other weight classes in the UFC, which makes it interesting in its own right, I think. Like, I don't know, like, what is it? You said 225 to 265? Is that what it is? Or 215 to
225, 265.
Yeah, what is that? That's 40 pounds. That's 40 pounds.
Yeah.
There's 40 pounds of fucking, like, dude.
It's crazy. And generally, I
that's
think
insane. Compared, like, in UFC, all the other weight classes they have to be within a pound or something like that, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So what's interesting in fighting is if you weigh in as a heavyweight, generally you can extend your career longer as a heavyweight because you don't slow down as much. If you're a lighter weight person, you slow down sooner. You can't really keep the pace with the younger guys in your weight division. So the heavier you are, the longer you can stay in. And you can always build those, as Rocky would call them, hurtin' bombs. You can always build a hurtin' bomb. And as long as you're able to land it, you're able to compete. So the heavyweight division is kind of crud, but at the same time, they can land their strikes. They're able to stick around and have a long career. With that, we should probably skip on over to the Ben Rothwell versus Stefan Struve fight. So as a guy who doesn't watch UFC or mixed martial arts very often, what was the first thing you thought? Who were you pulling for? I know this guy's a basketball player, so he's a dunker. He likes height, but who are you pulling for? Because personally, I may or may not have had money on Ben Rothwell, even though he looked disgustingly slow. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, no, coming out of the gates, always pull for the guy who's taller, who's got length, who's got the arm, the reach. That's what I like. Whenever I think about boxing or like anything related to fighting, I would think, goddamn, does this guy got long arms? Because he's got that reach then, and he's gonna whip your ass. That's what comes to my mind. That's all that comes to my mind. But clearly, I'm guessing that's not what happens in the real world when it comes to actual like fighting. I haven't fought too many foes in my life.
to me, Rothwell, he was trying to land an overhand right all night. He'd get in the clinch and he'd get up toward the cage. He had a lot of success when he got Struve against the cage, and it would have been nice if he could have landed the overhand right to the chin. It seemed like he kept landing it against the temple or the top of the head and kind of grazing over and not really necessarily hitting it. Um, besides that, I think the nut kick we have to talk about. Getting kicked in the dick. Honestly, Struve kept strafing, right? If you're tall, you're using your range, you're strafing. Struve on the second nut kick literally was strafing around, and Rothwell threw it and he locked up. Locked up like this and just took it right in the dick. So, to me, I don't think it was like a purposeful strike, obviously, and I think it was an honest accident because if you're fighting a taller guy and he's flinching, kind of incorrectly almost, if you will, reacting to an upper leg kick, probably an inside leg kick. I don't think it was going for the midsection. I think Rothwell was going for the inside leg kick. If you're incorrectly reacting to that and you get hit, it's kind of your own fault. The toughness of Struve to keep going was insane. I don't blame Murgliata at all. Dan Murgliata is the referee. A lot of people are blaming him for talking Struve into going on with that fight. I don't blame him for that. I think he honestly just told Struve what he was thinking, and Struve had to make a decision. And honestly, Struve doesn't have a chin, so he fucked up, and he took it. I don't know. What do you think?
All I know, so over the course of like the last year,
By a dozen, I think Lannon's seen. I'd say you've seen about a dozen pay-per-views.
yeah,
So he's seen probably about 30 to 40 fights. He's seen a fight live. So we watched UFC Minneapolis. We actually watched Francis Ngannou knock out Junior Dos Santos. I've seen the Aldo fight where Aldo knocked out Jeremy Stevens or not knocked out, but TKO'd him with a liver shot. I'm a huge UFC fan, mixed martial arts guy. I'd say you've watched more than even he is a casual, of course, but I think you've watched more than a casual fan even.
yeah.
Because I pull him in and make him watch these fights. So
If you've been to like Buffalo Wild Wings enough times on a Saturday, maybe like a couple times,
yep,
you've definitely seen UFC fights. But like
sure.
I've not seen two separate fights where like dudes get literally just like maybe not like kicked right in the balls or whatever, but like hard enough to where like they on the fucking ground and they dying and like they have to stop the fights for a predetermined amount of time. I didn't know like I never realized like what the fuck happens now. Like some dude's literally laying on the ground because he got hit in the nuts. And I was asking this guy like, don't they wear like cups, just like they do in like football or the NFL or whatever, like or college or high school even, like what the fuck, like why is it hurting, right? Because or I don't know, like it's just I don't know, it's just questions that I had, a bunch of questions that I had.
and to
It's
me,
weird. Never seen that before.
a cup
Tell me.
saves nothing. A cup saves nothing, especially when you're fighting a top-ranked 20. I'd say they're both in the top 20 heavyweights in the world. So if you get hit by a top 20 heavyweight with a nut shot, good luck. Especially if you're walking into it like it's just going to be a bad day. So with that, I would say overall, we could talk about the female fight, which I actually don't know the female fighters' names. I know Aspen Ladd who fought earlier, but the two earlier tonight I wasn't paying attention to their names. What did you think of that fight? Did you get to see much of it or not?
I didn't see much of it. I was too busy cooking my turkey burgers and grabbing a beer. So I'm a piece of shit. Hey,
Okay.
how about you just send me a like and fuck me off?
Yeah, all right. I watched the fight. So it's Rodriguez versus Cavillo. Cavillo, basically, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, fuck, I'm sorry. But anyway, she's a submission artist. Rodriguez is a striker. Rodriguez had a really good second round. She finished the second round very strong, was landing a lot of strikes. But this was one of those fights where it was so split. Rodriguez dominated on the floor, standing up, I should say. She dominated standing in the octagon. And as soon as Cavillo took it down, Kavia would dominate Rodriguez. There was a clear and significant skill gap. Just basically climbed all over her and beat the shit out of her. She had a couple of nice leg. I don't know if they were leg triangles. I can't remember, but they were really nice holds to where like Rodriguez wasn't getting out of it. She was just a huge, massive skill difference. So with these kind of fights where there's such a difference in skill, it's interesting to watch, especially when they're higher up in the card. And what happened was the fight ended in a majority draw. So I think one judge scored it for Rodriguez, and the other two judges scored it for majority draw, because what happened was Rodriguez won the first and the second round, and Cavillo won the third round with a 10-8 score because she dominated on the ground.
Okay.
So with that, I don't know. I really don't know what else to say other than the split in technical.
Well, it was a split
skill.
decision then.
Yeah, the split in technical skill was like such a perfect matchup that having different rounds really showed both women's ability to display their skills, and it also showed both women's deficiencies. So Rodriguez clearly needs to brush up a little on her ground game. And it was also interesting, they talked about how, I don't know if, I believe it was Rodriguez, she didn't actually get into mixed martial arts until the age of 26. So if she had an extra, like most women, if she had an extra 10 to 15 years to actually practice mixed martial arts, it'd be crazy to see how much better she really would be. Clueless Casuals. I love it, dude. I love it, man. I've watched over 1,000 fights. I've trained jiu-jitsu probably, quite a while.
His name's the title of the YouTube video. Recap Jack. Welcome to the chat. Clearly you know more than us because you're in the title of the YouTube video itself.
Yeah.
What do you have to say?
Yeah.
Since we're clueless casuals.
Yeah.
Big Ozzy.
Anyway, what we're doing is talking about the fights. This is a casual. He's probably seen about 10 to 15 UFC events. So we're trying to...
I've been to one live one in Minneapolis.
Yeah, we both...
In Minneapolis.
I've been to a couple of live. I'm wearing an old school, like, the shirt's probably 15 years old, like WEC, so I'm not too much of a casual, bro, but okay. Okay. Other than that,
those are pretty much...
Anything else you want to talk about, or are we wrapping her up, or what do you want to do?
Oh yeah, I mean those were pretty much the main fighters of the main event, right? That were up tonight, on tonight. Yeah,
I would say fight of the night. I really like the Ricky Simone Rob Font fight. That was active. There was one fight earlier. I don't remember who it was. Some guy beat the shit out of another guy. Just breaking balls. Right. Some guy literally beat the shit out of another guy, which, forgive me for not following as closely as I have been recently, but this guy would not give up. And we were at the gym. First 2 rounds, this guy was just constantly moving the whole time, which I think you have to be doing if you're on the ground, especially with a guy who's a better submission artist than you. But the guy on the ground with the better grappling was dominating, and this guy was almost moving too much. So I saw some opportunities for scrambles, and he didn't even, like, I don't know. He almost scrambled into a rear naked choke a few times. But maybe someone could hook me up with that. But otherwise, I'm fucking drunk. We need to call it. It's probably been enough streaming for the night. Thanks for tuning in, boys.
Yeah.
I think it's time for us. It's 1:08. We better go watch that UFC post-fight press conference and
see what
see if the Reem has anything to say, huh?
Yeah.
I doubt the Reem is going to be on. It's probably just going to be